Hello, welcome to this class in English from the Public Climate School about most affected people and areas. Welcome to all the teachers and students listening right now. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Leona from the Students for Future Germany. And as I mentioned before, today we will talk about the most affected people and areas by the climate crisis. They are also called MAPA. Yes, we will first hear an input from an activist from Bangladesh, and you will then have time to work on your worksheet. In the end, we will also hear a short insight from Yolima from Colombia. In addition, after this lesson, we will conduct an interview with Yolima, where she will talk about the situation and the effects of the climate crisis in Colombia more detailed. You're very welcome to stay in the live stream for this interview after the lesson. So if you have any questions to Yolima regarding the effects of climate crisis in Colombia, you can enter them in our Menti. All you need to do is enter this link here in your mobile device and write down your questions to Yolima. We will pass these questions on to her in the interview. And by the way, the interview will be in German. So feel free to ask any questions you like to Yolima in this Menti. Right, so let's start with our topic. We will now hear a 12-minute input from Farzana Faruk from Bangladesh about MAPA. Farzana is a young activist from Bangladesh, and due to time difference, she can't be here with us right now. That's why she recorded a video for us. Nevertheless, if you have any questions to her, you can enter them in the Menti as well. It's the same link, and we will pass the questions on to her and upload her answers on our website. So just enter your questions here. Great, so now listen to this video from Farzana and take notes on your worksheet while watching. So listen carefully, take notes, and enjoy.
MAPA. MAPA means most affected people and areas. And when we talk about most affected people and areas, we talk about every person who is most affected by the climate crisis. They are unheard but not voiceless and fighting for our present, not just our futures. And we are and will not be the prisoner of injustice. MAPA are the areas that were colonized and historically marginalized by the global. It is a term we are using instead of global south. Global south is an economical term where only the countries which are in the south is mainly represented, but MAPA is more than that. MAPA is a spectrum where every people from global north and global south who is affected by MAPA is included. The BIPOC community, the indigenous community, and marginalized sector in global north countries are also part of MAPA. MAPA are the the least responsible for the climate emergency, but we are the one who suffer the most from its consequences. We live in a crisis that began centuries ago when the current profit-oriented system were born. Our regions are the most exploited but least benefited. Our regions are most dangerous to be the defender of the environment, and our regions are the least prepared to face the climate change and the dimension of it. And when we talk about MAPA, we always share this symbol. This is the MAPA symbol, which means solidarity in many sign languages. This is also looks like a handcuff, so we are using to symbolize it that we won't be the prisoner of injustice. Why is it important to talk about MAPA? We can't talk about climate crisis without knowing what crisis climate change is bringing. The MAPA communities is facing the real climate problem now. To them, climate crisis is not a future problem. It is happening now. This problem is being amplified by the system we are going through. This has been amplified for years by the exploitation and the colonizations. The capitalist system is making it harder for the countries like us to adapt and to bring the justice for our land. Yet, MAPA people are the one who have the most knowledge about adaptation because they are doing it for years. They know how to adapt because they are fighting the real problems now. They are not dreaming about a future of green thing, but a future where living for their rights is not crime. Just want a life where drinking water shouldn't be a privilege. So when they know about these problems, they are the real people you need to connect to know the real problem of climate crisis. If you don't know the how climate crisis is affecting every person, you will never get the justice and you will never call for the justice. And that's why talking about MAPA is so important. And when I'm talking about climate justice, MAPA is the frontliner of climate justice. There is three terms we always talk about with climate change, climate crisis, and climate justice. Climate change is making everything difficult for us, especially for MAPA. And there came climate crisis. When climate change is making it as a crisis with lot of other crises involved. And these are the social inequalities. With the social inequalities, when people from some country are oppressing us day by day and we know how unjust the process is, we ask for climate justice. And climate justice for MAPA is so important because if the marginalized people get their right, we all will definitely get ours. People from MAPA have more effect in the cry in their life than someone from global north. It's because they don't have enough way to adapt. They can't adapt with the emotion and culture they are losing. They can't adapt to the things they are losing from their ancestors. There is more they are losing than the physical lands. And that's why we need the climate justice because climate justice is related to a lot of other justices like the gender equalities, like indigenous rights, like uh, child rights, and everything is so connected. And people from MAPA are the one who is most affected by all these crises because of this global system. We see the countries from the richer countries are giving us the debt. For the debt we have to pay back, and when we have to pay back with the interest we have to do it with more money. And every time there is a cyclone there is a debt, and from the debt there is more money. So the global north is profiting from the climate crisis, and we are the least responsible but the most affected one. So this is not just. That's why MAPA is the one who asks for climate justice. And when we talk about climate justice, we should talk about MAPA also. Now, the most important question we got from global north people who want to support us, how we can support. For supporting MAPA, what you first need to know is how MAPA people really connect. All of us have the same problem, same solutions, and we all know it. So, when we talk about MAPA, do you need to know that do actually you connect with another MAPA? You have to be an ally to MAPA who is not only in our own country, like in global south, but also in global north. BIPOC community from global north, indigenous community from global north, they are also part of MAPA. So you need to reach them first. You need to understand your privileges before knowing that what they as MAPA losing as their basic rights. You also need to ask the distractor, the banks, the companies who are investing on the distraction, that you are the consumer, so the consumer have the right to know where their money goes. You need to hold them accountable. You need to go hold your government accountable. Other than that, passing the mic is most important, because if someone from a privileged background talk about most affected, they will never connect. Without connection, we never can talk about the real problem. So whenever you have an opportunity to talk about, please pass the mic to the people who are most affected. And this is not same person from same country. Try and make to connect this is not easy, this is a hard process, but we have to try. We have to try so that we can get the best out of it. As I was talking about climate justice, I was talking about the system, and how rotten the system is. This system is led by capitalism, which is always helping the richer countries to get profit out of our sufferings, profit out of our lives. Our lives is being sold by the checks and by the profits. So this system need to be changed, and that's why we are using the hashtag uproot the system, because it symbolizes a tree where the root is some problem like capitalism, some problems like colonialism and neocolonialism and, and imperialism. And this root is making a tree which is making some crisis like climate crisis, gender equality, is indigenous lands grabbing, and fossil fuel. So the if we need to make the system change, we need to uproot from the root, and the root based on these problems like capitalism and the problems like colonialism and new colonialism. So if we don't change the system from the root, the tree will grow again and the problem will still be there. That's why we need to uproot the system which is oppressing the people, oppressing the MAPA.
Just life.
Hello, welcome back. I hope you were able to learn something from Farzana. And now you will have 20 minutes to work on the task on your worksheet. So start the task now and we will meet here again in 20 minutes. Welcome back again. I hope you did some progress on your task. And before we end this class, we will now hear a short statement from Yolima Vargas. Yolima is a biologist from Colombia, but lives here in Germany for 10 years. She works as a referee for Bildung trifft Entwicklung. And after this class, we will conduct an interview with her in German, where she will talk about Colombia in more detail. You can still enter your questions to Yolima in the Menti. Yes, Yolima, it's your turn. Welcome. Nice to have you here. Can you tell us how is Colombia affected by the climate crisis?
Hi, thank you, Leona. I'm going to do that, but I'm going to share my presentation. Okay. So today I want to talk with you about the effects of climate change in Colombia. But first, I want to tell you where Colombia is located. Colombia belongs to Latin America and is on the border between Central and South America. This geographical location makes Colombia a rich country in biodiversity of plants, animals, landscapes, and cultures. But just as Colombia is biodiverse, it is also vulnerable, especially to climate change. First, because of human pressure on its terrestrial and marine ecosystems, and secondly, because of its location in the tropics, where scientists believe that climate variation could generate strong impacts, especially in the Andes, where most of the country's population lives. Climate variation in Colombia may be reflected in a change in the rainfall regime with very pronounced dry periods or very heavy rains that together with the current deforestation and degradation may accelerate erosion processes. Another effect due to climate change is on health. High regions in the Andes that were previously colder have increased their temperature. This implies that vectors of diseases such as malaria, dengue, yellow fever, or maybe other news like Zika or chikungunya will be able to live at higher altitudes, creating new epidemics in regions that people were not used to it. The change in the hydrological system that makes strong the dry seasons can produce in agriculture and livestock increased aridity, soil erosion, and finally desertification. And water scarcity can lead to blackouts due to failures in hydroenergy generation, which corresponds to 69% of the country's energy metrics. But the most serious issue is also possible water distribution problems and drinking water outages. In the other scenario, with strong rains, there is a risk of flooding of crops and villages, as well as avalanches and landslides. That's very common in Colombia. That could accelerate internal displacements and migrations. Colombia has two seas, Pacific and Atlantic, 300 beaches, 2,900 kilometers of coast, and 20 islands. And with the expected rise in the sea level and the intensification of hurricanes, millions of people are at risk of exposure to fluorine in coastal zones. That means affectation in tourism, crops, and also water sources because of seawater intrusion. In the past, Colombia faced strong storms, but hurricanes were not usual, much less as intense as Iota, that in 2020 destroyed 80% of the island of Providencia in the Caribbean. People who live in Providencia denounce that after a year, they still live in tents, without toilets, without schools or hospitals. They also say that the government of Colombia has spent a lot of money on reconstruction, something like 30 years of the island budget. They believe that there is a lot of corruption, and also they say that maybe there are people who want to keep the land to make infrastructure projects like a marine that the local people did not want. All of these problems are even experienced in the country today, and they may get worse. For this reason, the only possible way forward for Colombia is to try to adapt. And that is a very difficult mission when Colombia is under pressure from the most powerful countries in the world, and Germany is one of them, who through their trade models want to exploit its natural resources. Preserving nature in Colombia is the only hope for adaptation, and not just 30% of it, as the current government from Colombia promised in Glasgow. The country should commit itself to stopping the destruction of natural regions, to stopping deforestation and degradation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Yolima, for this great insight. Now we have already come to an end of this lesson, but if you want to learn more about the situation in Colombia, just stay tuned for the following interview with Yolima. Moreover, we have several additional materials on our website that you can work on if you want to learn more about MAPA. And we also have 2 other statements from activists from Brazil and Namibia. To all those that will leave now, I will say goodbye. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. For those who will stay for the interview, we will now have a 10-minute break before we continue. So just stay in the live stream and we will be back with Yolima in 10 minutes. Thank you all. Goodbye.